Hi, I'm Bill Reese, and in this video, we're going to take a look at the spreadsheet that is titled Factors Affecting Interest Rate Risk Examples, which goes along with the class notes, Factors Affecting Interest Rate Risk. So I think it'll be helpful to you if you have opened those class notes, Factors Affecting Interest Rate Risk, and the spreadsheet, Factors Affecting Interest Rate Risk Examples, as I walk you through that spreadsheet, which kind of goes along with the notes there. So let me pull that spreadsheet up on the screen share here. Okay, and you should be able to see what we've got there. Very simple spreadsheet. We want to be able to demonstrate that there are three different attributes of a bond that will influence that bond's interest rate risk, the degree to which the bond's price changes when there are changes in interest rates. So obviously we know if interest rates go up, the price of a bond goes down. Interest rates go down, the price of a bond goes up. But there are some bonds for which the prices go up and down just a little bit. There are some bonds for which the prices go up and down a lot. What is it about a bond that causes it to have more interest rate risk, which means its price goes way up and down when there are changes in interest rates, versus less interest rate risk, means the price of the bond only goes up and down a little bit when there are changes in interest rates? Well, there are three attributes of a bond that will influence that interest rate risk. And that is the bond's maturity, the bond's coupon rate, and the bond's yield. So we want to be able to show how the maturity affects interest rate risk, the bond's maturity affects its interest rate risk, how its coupon rate affects its interest rate risk, and how the bond's yield or yield to maturity affects its interest rate risk. Okay, so what we're going to see here is we've got bond A and bond B in each of these scenarios. And in each scenario, bond A and B will be identical except for the one thing that we're looking to test. So for the first one, we're going to look at is different maturities. So here's bond A and B, and they've got the same face value. They've got the same coupon rate. They've got the same yield, but they've got different maturities. Bond A has 5 years till maturity. B has 20 years maturity. So bond B has a longer time to maturity than bond A does, but otherwise they're identical bonds. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to calculate the price of each bond. Both bonds are trading at par value because they're set up that the yield is equal to the coupon rate, which means it's going to be trading at par value. So there's the price of bond A, there's the price of bond B, using our present value function there to be able to find it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, interest rates are going to change. Interest rates are going to go up by 2% for both bonds. So here for bond A, interest rates go up from 6% to 8%. Here for bond B, interest rates go up from 6% to 8% there. And we're going to see now what happens to the price of each bond. Well, we know interest rates go up, the price of a bond goes down. So bond A, the price goes down from $100 to it's now $91.89. That is a drop of 8.11%. So bond A went down by 8.11%. Bond B, the price went down from $100 to $80.21. Bond B, the price went down by 19.79%, more than double the amount. So clearly, bond B went down by more than bond A did when interest rates went up. Well, let's see if the same thing happens if interest rates go down. If interest rates go down, both bonds will go up in value. Will bond B also go up by more there? I think it will. Okay, but let's take interest rates going down, let's say to 4% here, and interest rates going down to 4% here. And in fact, that's what we find. Both bonds, the price goes up. Bond A goes up from 100 to 108.98, goes up by 8.98%. Bond B, the price goes up from 100 to 127.36. It goes up by 27.36%. So clearly, whether interest rates go up or whether interest rates go down, Bond B is going to be, its price will be more sensitive to changes in interest rates than Bond A will be. So we would say Bond B has more interest rate risk. Okay. More volatility is more risk. So that's the first thing that is going to affect your interest rate risk. And the most important is going to be the maturity. Bonds with a longer time to maturity are going to have more interest rate risk. And if you wanted to, you could change this around so that bond A has maybe only 1 year to maturity, something like that. And now you can see, wow, in a situation like that, bond A only went up by 1.94%, bond B went up by 27%. Okay, well, there's a big difference in their maturities. So that's why you've got a big difference in their interest rate risk. So you can kind of play around with this, make it anything you want. The second attribute of the bond that is going to affect its interest rate risk is its coupon rate. So again, we got bond A and we got bond B here. They got the same face value. They've got the same maturity. They've got the same yield, but they've got different coupon rates. Bond A has a 10% coupon rate. Bond B has a 16% coupon rate. Now, they're going to have different prices because a higher coupon rate, obviously, you're going to have a higher price with this. So here's the price of bond A. It's selling at par value. Bond B is selling at a premium because it's got that higher coupon rate that is there. But we're going to see that the bond that has the lower coupon rate is going to be more sensitive to changes in interest rates than the bond with the higher one. So how are we going to see that? Well, here interest rates are at 10% for both bonds, and we're going to see what happens if interest rates go up to 12% for both bonds. Now, again, we know interest rates go up, the price of a bond goes down, and it does. Bond A goes down from 100 to 88.53. That is a drop of 11.47%. Bond B, the price goes down from 137.39 to 122.94. Excuse me, that's a drop of 10.52%. Not a big difference, but it is a difference, okay? Bond A went down by more than bond B did, 11%, 11 point something percent compared to 10 point something percent. Why is that? It's because bond A has a lower coupon rate. Let's take bond A's coupon rate even lower. How low can we go? Well, you can get a coupon rate of zero coupon bond. So let's make this a zero coupon bond. And now we see it's a little bit more pronounced. Okay. With a zero coupon bond and interest rates going up from 10% to 12%. Bond A, the price dropped by 17%. And again, bond B, it dropped by 10.52%. So I mean that's a big difference between 0 and 16% the coupon rate. But again, the point is to show you that hey, lower coupon rates, you are more sensitive to changes in prices. Does that happen if interest rates go down as well? Well, let's say instead of interest rates going up from 10 to 12, let's say they go down from 10 to 8%. So we're going to put 8% here and we're going to put 8% here. So interest rates have gone down. The price of each bond has gone up. Bond A, it's gone up from 37.69 to 45.64. It's increased by 21.09%. Bond B, it increased by only 12.36%. So again, bond A went up by more when there's a change in interest rates. Why? Because it has a lower coupon rate. So far we've seen that bonds with a longer time to maturity have more interest rate risk, and bonds that have a lower coupon rate have more interest rate risk. Now that coupon rate thing is kind of significant because you have a boundary. Okay, you can't go any lower than a 0% coupon rate. So a bond with a 0% coupon rate has the lowest coupon rate possible, and that is going to be the highest amount of interest rate risk you can get based upon the coupon rate that is there. Well, one more thing that will have an impact on a bond's interest rate risk, and that is the bond's yield. So here we've got bonds A and B again. They have the same face value, they have the same coupon rate, they have the same time to maturity, but the yield on bond A is 3%. The yield on bond B is 9%. So bond A has a lower yield, bond B has a higher yield. Here's the price of bond A. Here is the price of bond B. Obviously, the yield is going to impact their respective prices. But again, we're looking at how much is the percentage change due to changes in our variable. And here our variable is going to be interest rates. Okay, change. So if interest rates go up by 1% from 3% to 4%, for bond A, the price of the bond, remember, interest rates go up, the price of the bond goes down. So the bond, its price is going to go down from 125.75 to 116.35. It's going to go down by 7.48%. Bond B, also interest rates go up by 1% from 9% to 10%. Its price goes down from 80.49 to 75.08. That is a drop of 6.72%. So for both bonds, interest rates went up by 1%. Bond A, the price went down by 7.48%. Bond B, it went down by 6.72%. So the reason why bond A dropped by more was because bond A had a lower yield at the start on the bond. Okay, it was at 3% versus 9%. That is what made the difference there. So bonds with a lower yield are going to have more interest rate risk. And we can see the same thing happens if interest rates go down by 1%. So let's suppose interest rates go down from 3% to 2% here. Price of the bond goes up. Interest rates go down from 9% to 8% here, and the price of the bond goes up. So both bonds, the price went up, but A went up by more. It went up by 8.22% compared to bond B, went up by 7.36%. So once again, the bond with the lower yield, that was bond A, had the lower yield than bond B, had more price sensitivity to changes in interest rates, which is what we call interest rate risk. So bond A, the price was more sensitive. The price went up by more than it did for bond B there. So three factors that are going to affect interest rate risk. The biggest one, okay, is going to be maturity. Bonds with longer maturities have more interest rate risk. The second one is going to be coupon rates. Bonds with a lower coupon rate have more interest rate risk. And the third one is the yield on the bond. Bonds with a lower yield are going to have more interest rate risk. So if we want to come up with one number that represents how much interest rate risk there is in a bond, that number needs to incorporate all three of these factors. That number needs to reflect what is the maturity of the bond, it needs to reflect what is the coupon rate on the bond, and it needs to reflect what is the yield on the bond. This number needs to be a bigger number for bonds that have a longer time to maturity. It needs to be a bigger number for bonds with a lower coupon rate, and needs to be a bigger number for bonds that have a lower yield. Well, that's where we're going with all this. Duration is going to be that number. Bonds with a higher duration are going to be bonds that have more interest rate risk. Bonds with a lower duration are bonds which have less interest rate risk. So that duration value has got to have incorporated into it the bond's time to maturity, the bond's coupon rate, and the bond's yield. And it does. So this spreadsheet just kind of helps you to be able to see all that. I hope it was helpful for you.